Okay, we are going to start our program with a prayer, as we like to do with starting all of our programs. And the prayer today is about engaging with words of Torah. And that prayer is, if you know it from any other classes that you've been attending, it's Baruch Atah Adonai
Eloheinu
Melech HaOlam
Asher
Asher
Kiddushanu b'mitzvotav
Mitzvotav
v'tzivanu.
La'asok b'divrei Torah. That's blessed are you,
Amen.
Adonai, our God, sovereign of all, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to engage with words of Torah. So I guess you can all see each other. We've had a little chance to greet each other ahead of the program. So I think we're going to get started with the first photograph.
You know, I walk Green Street to and from services. When I'm a few blocks away from the synagogue, I start to see the arches. And this is my first sign that I'm getting close.
The synagogue was built in 1928 during a period of transition in American architecture. The architectural firm that designed RS, Simon and Simon, were brothers who had very divergent ideas about design. One leaning towards modern and the other leaning towards classical. And actually, their partnership did not survive during the design of Road of Shalom. The exterior reflects this tension in its acknowledgement of the Art Deco movement and its tendency to borrow styles from relevant to the building's purpose. So in our case, we see a lot of Romanesque and also Babylonian revival, using the details from those periods in both the overall massing of the building and in the terracotta details that you see along the roof line. Now, the mosaics that you're looking at inside the arches, you may notice that in one of those bands, you see a series of white 8-pointed stars, which is interesting, but it turns out that the 8-pointed star is found often in ancient Middle Eastern designs. And when we built our addition in our expansion project, our architects included that feature in the patterns of our community room carpeting, in the bronze gates on our courtyard, and now in the new lobby chandelier. I think we've decided that if people have comments or questions, feel free to write it in the chat. And if you want to ask a question after each photograph, we could probably take one or two during the program, but we can also go back at the end if you want to ask questions either about the photography or about the architecture.
Feel free to use the raise your hand function if you are interested in asking a question. You can get to that.
Helen asked
Thanks,
what the
Michael.
9 images in the circles are. And I don't know. A lot of people have asked that, and a lot of people have studied it, and it's I've never seen anybody actually be able to tell me what they're about. But I'll check again.
All right. Okay.
And then the next one we're going to go to is the lobby. Now, see, I love this place. Look at that tile, the wood, the colors. And what I like to do is think about who walked on the tiles when they're coming in, getting ready to go into services. You've got friends and relatives laughing, hugging, shaking hands. Such a difference from where we are right now today, but I wanted to give us a look at our lobby.
The decorative elements of our building, the mosaics, the murals, the stenciling, the carpet in the sanctuary, and the stained glass were designed by an outfit called Vincenzo Studios, who were the leading interior design firm of its day. Their work can be found in buildings throughout the Philadelphia region, but RS can boast as the most intact Vincenzo interior in existence. If you follow that mosaic pattern, you see those interlocking circular designs that you can see in the floor, and they're repeated also above the bema in the arch over the ark, where it depicts 7 days of creation. That same interlocking circular pattern comes up there, and that's above where the plasterwork screen for the organ pipes are. You can see the spectacular watercolor renderings that the Vincenzo Studios did of many of the building's features hanging in the Rosenbluth seminar room. And the lobby cases that you see here in the lobby, they hold the Obermeyer collection of Judaica, which is a world-class collection of texts and Jewish ritual pieces, some from the 1600s.
So we have a couple of questions. We have one from Ellen. What are the 9 images in the circles?
You mean on the floor here? They're not really images, I don't think. I think they're just sort of patterns. I'll have to look at them again, but I don't think they're images. I think they're just a tile pattern.
Okay. And a question from Harriet: Is the gold tiles the gold tiles or paint?
Oh no, they're all individual tiles that are ceramics, and some of them are stone. So it's a combination of ceramic tile, and some of them are like marbles and granites in tile form. Really amazing colors.
Okay. And got another 1 second. Another question. Ellen, you have a question. Ellen, question?
No, I keep trying to lower my hand because I raised it to ask about the exterior, and I
Okay.
can't get rid of it.
I gotcha. I gotcha.
Thank you.
All right, moving along. One moment.
Okay, this one, I walked to the synagogue. I go early and I walk around, and I love this staircase. And I thought, I love the elements of design, and that's where it started. And then when I saw myself in the reflection, I said, I come here for self-reflection. And that's where the piece came.
When we expanded our building 5 years ago, we hired the Philadelphia architectural firm of Kieran Timberlake, and they designed an unapologetically modern addition that showed a lot of reverence to the original building through its massing, its materials, its detail, and showcasing of the features of the older structure, meaning that there are a lot of places where you're in the building and you can look the new building and you can look up through the windows and see the old building, which then becomes part of the space, the new space that you're in. This grand staircase, the Clare family stair, leading down to the Teller Auditorium and the Gutman Room, provided a much more elegant and accessible way of getting downstairs than we ever had before. And this staircase uses Jerusalem stone, glass, and bronze. Let's see, there's a question. It's a comment from Gail.
Just a comment from Gail. Self-reflection. Good one. That's all we got.
Thank you. Okay, where are we going now? I love the textures on these walls. That was the first thing that caught my eye, was the wall texture. And something that Ellen always reminds me of is the light within. We all have a light within. The highest temperature on the spectrum is the white light. And so brought that out as much as I could. And with that much energy, you can just see it radiating out, and then it goes into softer and less temperature, cooler temperatures than the other lights of the spectrum. But I love this white with the sconce because it shows me passion.
The Frankel Berkowitz Chapel was renovated in 2002. And previously, I don't know how many people remember it, but it was a much more traditional room in that it was pews facing a very high bema. And when we redesigned it, we turned the room from facing south to the more traditional facing east. We took out all the pews. We made it flexible seating and a much lower bema. The plaster in the room was badly deteriorating from leaks, and there were crumbling beams that were re-stenciled and repaired. The ark was relocated. The Ner Tamid and the reader's table and the bema chairs were all salvaged from the original furnace building that was on the site from 1870 to 1927. And the lighting in the room was greatly improved. These much beloved menorah sconces were retained and refurbished. And our architects, Blackney Hayes, found a remarkably compatible chandelier fixture that looks as though they've always been there. And next time you're in the chapel, and we will be in the chapel again one day, take a look at the chandeliers that hang from the ceiling, and you would have sworn that they were there to match these sconces when the building was built. But the chandeliers are all new. We have some questions, I think.
See, we have a comment. Mural says, "I love all geometry captured in this photo of the staircase." She's, of course, a former geometry teacher. And Harriet asks, what is the texture? What is that texture?
It's basically a canvas wallpaper. It's a heavy canvas wallpaper. I believe it was put up to, because the walls, the plaster walls, needed some kind of protective surface. And this was a surface that didn't show much flaws in the plaster. So I believe that was the choice we made when it went up.
Okay.
This is the first photograph I took of at RS. Here's peace, strength, beauty, waiting for congregants to release our troubles and feel our joy. There'll be a time when we will be in here, my friends, again. We're under what seemed like geological pressure from this social distancing, but we also have to keep in mind that we are peaceful. We have strengthened commitment to each and every other person that's a congregant.
Contrary to the oft-cited claim that our sanctuary owes its design to the great synagogue of Florence, whose style is Moorish, the sanctuary is much more closely based on the Byzantine revival style of Hagia Sophia Mosque in Istanbul. I've kind of made it one of my life goals to have us stop calling this the Great Synagogue of Florence interior. It really isn't. It's interesting to note that although the architectural styles of the interior and the exterior are entirely different, the ark is what reflects the exterior the most. Has the same Babylonian revival details at the ark as we do outside, and everything else is Byzantine. In 2005, when we did the main restoration of this room, it was closed for 11 months, and it was filled top to bottom with scaffolding, and every surface was restored or replaced. And the walls and the ceilings were re-stenciled. The stone and the wood surfaces were cleaned and repaired. The brass railings were polished. The carpet was replaced with a copy of the original carpet. The lighting was improved, but most noticeably, we included a new cross aisle that wasn't there before, and that led to additional egress doors north onto Mount Vernon Street and to the south. And we also created a more, the effect was to create a more intimate front section of the sanctuary so that you felt like when there weren't lots of people in there, it was more brought to the front. And we created a lower bema, and that was added to provide a more modern, intimate service. And in order to accommodate all these changes, we removed several pews, rows of pews, some in the middle for the aisle, and some in the front for the bema. And the addition of the southern exit doors anticipated the new building addition 10 years later. So before they just emptied out onto the parking lot, but we knew that one day we might want an addition there, and it came in just like we hoped. Still left to be restored in this room are the stained glass windows.
Okay, let's continue. I don't see any questions or comments.
Whoop, yep, from Jerry.
Oh, there's one.
Yeah.
From Jerry, magnificent RS photos and commentary. As for Italy, maybe we should publish photos of the Florence Synagogue in the Ars Bulletin so people can see with their own eyes that there is virtually no resemblance. Very good.
Thanks, Jerry.
Very good. Very good.
When we leave at evening, I turn right because I walk down Green Street, but most everyone else turns and has this walkway and canopy under which to walk. What caught me first, which I absolutely love the design, is that there were dappled stars in the ceiling, dappled tiles in the ceiling, resembling the dappled stars in the sky. We're given just this little extra oomph of reverence and spirituality to just take us the rest of the way home with this piece.
I love the light photograph. The architects for our addition were inspired by the mosaics on the Broad Street facade, and they wanted to bring some of that in a more contemporary way to our new entrance on Green Street. The canopy's columns, each one is different, and it features a different pattern of the blue tiles dissolving down into the gold tiles, and every one of them has a different pattern. And the in-ground lighting that shines up grazes the surface of the columns and highlights the ceiling at night, giving that scattered gold tiles a real sparkle.
Okay. And we have just, I think, one comment again from Jerry. OMG, I never saw that entrance the way you captured it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jerry. This was one of my little secret finds. Nobody saw me when I snuck in while they were decorating. Sukkot's a great bonding experience to decorate, to attend, to build. It was, you know, we all know it represents all the years we were wandering and looking for the promised land. And when I need a little strength, when I think I am not going to make one more centimeter of forward momentum, I think of that, wandering that long. And it gives me strength that, yeah, I can relax for 10 minutes and give myself the needed boost I need to keep going. But that's what I love about this.
Since we built our addition, we now construct our sukkah in the Foreman family courtyard. It used to be in the parking lot. The design of the courtyard came late in the design process, mainly from the budgetary need to build less building than we originally conceived. It was the happy result of a sad realization. The courtyard is accessed from both the Gushner Gallery and the community room. And it provides a wonderful urban experience, a very private urban experience for parties, services, gatherings, and sukkahs.
Okay, I don't see any questions or comments. We'll move right along.
I call this piece Love Light. I could not decipher the words because of my vision problems, but Michael told me that it is, I am a Jew in the German language. And before I even thought about it, I knew it was very something holy, and that's why I called it Love Light. It's such a powerful thing, and a powerful message, and a powerful visual message that comes from a place of love. And it's very interesting to come on with so much power and with love together.
This piece is from the PMJA's permanent collection by an artist named William Anastasi. And he's a Philadelphia-born artist and an early founder of both the conceptual and the minimalist art movements. And a similar piece of his, with the same message but slightly different looking, hangs in the Jewish Museum in New York City.
Oh, cool.
Mm.
And let's continue.
Okay, we have so many good possibilities. I can't be in that lobby without seeing like 4,000 photo opportunities. And I saw about 20 different opportunities in different ways to take this piece. I love the 10 Commandment tablets are there almost in the keystone position. It's a load-bearing area as well as it should be. It's the 10 Commandments. It can handle the weight. That's what I love about this piece.
As part of the sanctuary restoration that we did, the Thalheimer lobby was renovated as well. And you're looking at the Descenso murals in the lobby, which are all over inside all of the arches. They were all restored by a painter who spent a lot of time restoring these. And then we also installed LED lighting that you can especially see in the distant archway. That band of light was done by a very thin ribbon of LED lighting that really highlights the murals and the shapes, the form of the ceiling. And the LED lighting was new. The original design of the building did not have that, and I think it really enhances the lobby.
All right, so we got a couple of comments here. First was Jerry's. I think that is a takeoff of the comment by JFK. Ich bin ein Berliner. I guess that's for the last one. And Ellen writes on this one, is it a quote related to the Holocaust or otherwise, or maybe just the declaration of the artist?
I think the latter. I think it's the declaration of the artist.
Okay.
Gail's got her hand raised.
Right, and I'm just seeing a lot of other comments as well. Something about the speech, from Jerry saying about the speech by President Kennedy given on June 26, 1963 in West Berlin, that he noticed and gives a lot of detail about that. I don't, the saying.
The story behind that is that he actually said it incorrectly. He should have said, Ich bin Berliner. Ich bin ein Berliner is basically apparently saying, I am a jelly donut.
Oh, okay.
And I
Very
was
good.
trying to figure out how that could happen. I think it's the equivalent of saying in English, I am Danish versus I am a Danish.
Right. So on this one, we have a comment from Karen. I just noticed for the first time that the tablets are on top of the scroll. Interesting. And yeah. Let's see, somebody had their hand raised.
I do. It's Gail.
Oh, go ahead.
So when I think it was for the last day of learning, we had one of our breaks. We had one of our breaks during setup here in the Thalheimer lobby, and I had never seen it. So I'd never seen it in the same way when we were all milling around before. We used to go in through the back, and now we rarely use it at all. But it is gorgeous, and just looking at these arches, you showed us the floor before. It's a beautiful space for a little reception.
Oh, yeah.
Could be. Thank you. Ben Sion, I'm trying to unmute you. Would you unmute yourself, please?
Yes, thank you. I want to ask Michael about the term Babylonian revival. Now, I know what Greek revival is. It would be the columns and the pediment. But what would be the characteristic feature or features of Babylonian revival? That's the question.
Mike.
What happened to Michael?
Have we gone?
We lost our presenter.
Okay.
Give him a minute.
We'll have
Michael, could you grab me a water bottle too?
Ned, can you show us the floor again? Do you remember which one that was?
You want me to go back?
Please.
Not that one.
No, the mosaic of the Thalheimer lobby while we're waiting for Michael to return. All the way, I think it's the next one. Yes. So beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it just the colors, the vibrancy? I took saturation out because I found when I took the saturation out and raised the vibrancy, you get this voluminous feel to the room as opposed to colors shouting at you.
Used to be called Photoshop.
Look at the way the blues and the yellows and the oranges and then the reds and maroons on the floor, how they all come together. That's a beautiful color palette.
No, it's all electronic. They don't develop it.
That floor is irreplaceable.
Well, maybe continue to Karen with your photos. Because Michael's gotten lost somewhere, so he'll catch up with us, I guess.
Cyberspace.
Yes, the lobby windows, door windows.
Is that the next one? Is that the next? Yeah. Okay. And I could read Michael's. I could read Michael's piece.
Yes, please do.
Okay, I can take his.
After Karen does her piece.
Yes.
I don't know how many times I listened to Ellen talk about the open doors. And I just had to do this one for her. Everybody who has children, grandchildren, who needs to, we all know this vision because during services, in and out, in and out, in and out. And I just think it's wonderful to have the doors just partially open so that who's looking in has to take the responsibility to see the rest.
Okay. So the center doors of the sanctuary are different from the other 4 sets of doors flanking them These wood doors with stained glass inserts were added sometime soon after the building was finished and in use. The original design of the sanctuary did not have a center aisle, only side aisles, and it's unclear exactly when these significant modifications to the room were made. The other 4 pairs of doors were covered in leather with an intricate pattern of colors and tooling, which can still be seen on the transom pieces above the existing wood doors, which were meant to be temporary replacements until funding was available to restore the leather on the originals. The original doors have been stored for safekeeping.
The cantor called this the true fly on the wall photograph. I got it to her through the other clergy. I like listening to the rehearsals, so I go all the way around through the lobby and through those wooden doors. I like sitting unnoticed listening to the rehearsals because it's a little dance they do when they're all trying to tune and rehearse and get the timing and the cadence right. I took it this far away because I wanted to be able to understand how big the room is and how voluminous her voice and their playing must be in order to fill us all. And you got the composition, and then and it just comes down to simplicity within that complexity.
So the restoration of the sanctuary included a new sound system, which proved to be inadequate. Several years later, with improved technology, the sound system was revamped again and now provides a much better auditory experience. The speakers, tall, thin columns flanking the bima, blend in so well they are barely visible. The RS Orchestra, Ani Kinur, was established by Cantor Frankel after Rabbi Kuhn, and the members of the Board of Trustees visited Central Synagogue in New York in 2011 and were inspired by their music program. All right, and we have some comments. I'm not sure. So we have a comment from Ellen. Thank you so much for this image. Karen, it reminds me of the Psalm, "Open the gates, open them wide, that the King of Glory might come in." And Jerry says, legend has it that Rabbi Wolsey's wife said that there was not a center aisle for the bride. The pews were separated and the center door was added. You can see the architect's sketches of the original layout of the sanctuary on the walls of the Rosenbluth room.
Cool, thank you.
All right, so let's continue.
I felt like I was hiding up in the rafters taking this photograph. I got up as high as I could. You can see there is some displacement because of the angles and stuff that I took. It's not the full arch brass rail. If you see, it goes in more of an S, and that's where you can see that I had to manipulate something, and that's what was manipulated to make this piece visibly possible. I call this the soul of the building, because you see the light above, how darker it does get below. And even in the darkest places, you can see I'm in a darker place because I'm in a corner. You can still see the light shining, and that is almost like God looking down through skylight. Sorry, thank you for your patience.
So one of the most complicated aspects of the 2005 restoration was the repair of the main elaborate starburst light fixture at the top of the dome. The light was supported by the main roof structure with horsehair ties that had started to fall. Over the years, the glass had been replaced by lighter weight plexiglass, reducing the weight but diminishing the beauty of the design. Then chunks of plaster began breaking off and falling to the seats below. For about a year, a large net was installed below the dome to catch the pieces. During the restoration, a steel structure was inserted above the ceiling to support the fixture, and the missing glass pieces were fabricated and restored. Lighting was added discreetly to the room, giving it a warmer, brighter appearance. Okay, questions, comments? We'll move on to our final photograph.
I like this one because you get to see some more complexity of the lobby, and we get to see the bima at the same time. We all know, I know this because I do go in and out during services, and this is the way I enter and exit. I just love the way that, again, when you're looking at the colors, you've got the reds and the yellows coming in from above the seats with those very light blues. It's almost like a seafoam blue, if you will. And then when you get those orange tones into the wood of the doors, it was just like colors just kept coming after layer after layer after layer. And I love the architecture and the carving of this wood. It's spectacular. And I played with, I made the bima the focus. I just didn't feel right. I had another piece where the door was, where the wood was the most in focus. I didn't like it. I like the way when you have, the way you have to look through to see the clarity.
Exactly.
Sorry about that. My internet completely crashed, and I'm glad it came back. Actually, what I did like about this photograph as I was staring at it is actually how the doors are remarkably in focus compared to the distance. I'm not sure how you managed to do that, but it's really beautiful. The center doors of the sanctuary are different from the other 4 sets of doors flanking them. These wood doors with the stained glass inserts were added sometime soon after the building was finished and already in use. The original design of the sanctuary did not have a center aisle, only side aisles. And it's unclear exactly when these significant modifications to the room were made. With early pictures, it shows no center aisle, and nobody quite remembers when the changes were made. It was pretty early on. The 4 other doors that open into the sanctuary were covered in leather with a very intricate pattern of colors and tooling. And that can be seen if you go into the lobby. There are solid transom pieces over all of those doors that still have the leather decorations. The wood doors that you see now on the 2 sides of the sanctuary were meant to be temporary replacements until the funding was available to restore the leather doors, which are stored for safekeeping in the building. But we've been waiting for about 15 years now, and everybody has sort of gotten used to those wood doors, which were never meant to be permanent. One day we'll restore the leather doors.
Okay. So, Michael, for your benefit, I read through, we've gone through the rest of the presentation, and
Okay.
and I actually I didn't know what else to do, so I took your place and did the reading.
Okay, thank you.
But at this point, I'm happy to, if you prefer, if you use the raise your hand option so I can see everybody. It's the easiest way for me to see if you have any other questions.
I have one. Let's see, participants.
Hello, Elaine Jaskell.
Well,
Go right ahead.
Well, first I want to say, Karen, how moved I am by these photos which have heightened and deepened what we see all the time. It's just, they are such a treasure. And
Thank you.
And the commentary is wonderful, both from you and from Michael.
thank you.
I would like to suggest that a photographic folio be made possibly with a commentary, and be available for purchase. So many of us try to tell our friends who are not local about our beautiful synagogue, and it's just hard to describe. And if we had such a beautiful folio, we could convey that to them, and possibly this could be a fundraiser. I know it wouldn't raise great sums of money, but I think we would treasure it, and it could hopefully pay for itself.
Elaine, don't sell us South Shores. We're pretty good here in what we do. We can raise a lot of money. Michael and I just talked about that yesterday because I had to stop photographing, of course, because we stopped going into the building. But once I go back into the building, I'm going to ramp up and see what I can do. The synagogue and all of you people have become my muse, and I couldn't be more grateful for you all.
Okay, I believe Ellen is next. If
I just wanted to thank Karen and Michael for this really exquisite presentation. And I know how much we all miss going into Road of Shalom. And this was just a lovely way to reconnect with our building. And I'm really grateful for it. So I just wanted to say thank you.
You're welcome. It doesn't even occur to me because I see our synagogue and the sanctuary and all the places every day. And so I don't notice it until someone says something. So thank you, Ellen.
Thank you.
okay, Gail, unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Actually, I was waving goodbye.
Oh,
But my thought was exactly that one, that it would be nice. I wondered if there were ideas for some sort of expanding this, but I think it's our ending time. This was
Yeah.
it is. Yeah. Let me see if I can get Ben Sion's question. And then did you have a question, Ben Sion, that you wanted to sneak in before we close?
It's Jane.
Jane?
Good one from Ariel. Sorry.
I'm thrilled with the presentation. To see through artistic eyes, most people don't see it that way. And the photographs are just a different way and a much more artistic way. I really thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you. I tried to, words are not my forte at this time. So much of what I express in my life is through the photography. And I've fallen in love all over again with the building and everyone in this congregation. You are my muse.
Okay. All right, so we're going to have two quick, let's see. And let's see who's first. Adele, you have your hand up.
Yeah. Am I muted?
You are not. You can speak.
Okay. Just quickly, I had written into a chat too, but I figured you weren't going to look at them. It was a lovely, wonderful presentation, and my only comment was thinking about the restoration of the sanctuary. I just truly wish there had been enough money to also restore the seats.
Yes. They were discussed. I think at the time we thought that it was a really big job and that they had been restored once before, but the fabric is fine. It's what's under the fabric that can be painful at times. And there is discussion about sometime, it's on the list of things that still need to happen in the sanctuary. But we are establishing a historic preservation fund that will provide funding one day for some of the work that still has to be done.
Okay. All right, last comment from Ellen. Do you have a comment?
Well, I didn't. It's because I just never could figure out how to lower the hand once I raise it. But I just wanted to tell everyone that Karen's photography extends well beyond these gorgeous pictures of Rodef, and they can be seen on her website, KarenEMichaels.com. And it's well worth taking a look. They're beautiful. And the last thing I wanted to say is that every Friday night at 4:30, when we have Jewish meditation, we use one of Karen's beautiful photographs and her commentary as sort of the basis of what we do. And we're just enormously grateful to Karen for sharing her photographs and her beautiful words, even though she says she's not eloquent. We think she's very eloquent. So I just wanted to mention those two things.
Thank you.
All right. So
Thanks,
thanks very
everybody.
much, everybody. The last thing I want to mention before we close out, first of all, I want to thank Michael and I want to thank Karen for this beautiful presentation this afternoon. I know brightened my day in the middle of my work day. So something to look forward to. And one last thing that I want to highlight is, if you would at some point, I believe you can see on your screen right now is a,
Joe Jerry.
yes, the whatchamacallit, the,
Evaluation.
thank you, I couldn't think of the word, the evaluation form. And if you just need to fill out one for the whole week and mark which programs you attended and whether you found them insightful and useful, and if you have any comments, we would appreciate that.
I'll do
So
it.
we're just going to leave the chat open till about 2 o'clock if people just want to chat. But
Yeah.
this
Just to echo what Jerry said, Ned, thank you so very much for doing
Yeah.
such a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ned.
Thank you.
Thank you,
thank
Ned.
you. You're welcome. Thank you. All right, I am going to try to unmute everybody so we can all just sort of hang out for another 5 or 10 minutes.
It really was wonderful. I just want to say it was like, I felt like I was back in college in an art class. It had that exciting feeling of being in a learning situation that was aesthetic and poetic and lyrical and spiritual and communication and community wise wonderful. So thank you, Karen, and everybody for making this possible. This
You're
is
very
what
welcome.
days of learning should be about. It's a
Thank
perfect
you,
example.
Michael
Okay.
and Karen. And I want to second the point about her website. Karen's website is incredible. You should all check it out.
Yes.
Thank you. And I'm not trying to make a sale. The works aren't for sale.
Very good.
Karen, you have amazing eyes because I'm one of the tour guides, and as many times as I've been around the building and looked at everything, you saw things in a completely different way than I see it. So I really appreciated that. And I also sent you a message. I'm not sure if you saw it, but I couldn't find your email in the synagogue directory. But if you send me your email, I'll send you photographs of what it looks like above the sanctuary ceiling when Elwood took me on a private tour.
Oh. That's the thing about, I'm asked a lot, what does a fine art photographer do? And I've broken it down to, I get people to see things they look at every day. And they don't even realize they're doing it.
Yeah, hidden in plain sight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about the rest of you, but I had never realized till Michael mentioned it, that the 4 columns outside, that each one is different. Now, I can't wait to go back and actually check that out. Was there a discussion, Michael, about making the ceiling look like stars? Was that the intent?
Yes, pretty much. We talked a lot about and the architects actually laid out every gold tile and thought about how it should look and how many there should be. Very intentional.
Yeah, so very beautiful.
There's another detail I discovered one day while I was standing across Broad Street waiting for an Uber to pick me up, and I was looking at the front of our building, and there are 4 big columns on the front of the building. Those big full height columns, and right at the top of each column, just under the capital of the column, there's a little band that surrounds each column, and there's a Hebrew letter on each column, and it spells shalom.
Wow. That is so cool.
I don't know why I noticed that, but but if you're ever standing and looking at the outside of the building, you can see the 4 letters of the word shalom.
Okay, and that piece, I'm sort of like a plastic surgeon, because you don't realize, people don't realize that in the fine art, no one wants to see a red light. No one wants to see a human sneaker or a foot
Right.
or a head or a cat, you know, video bombing or photo bombing. And so there's a lot of work that takes place, because you would never tell that I removed the red light system from in front of the building, because I had to take it from far back with a zoom lens, and there was no way, so I had to clone that out, and I think I did a pretty good job of it.
Did you Photoshop that, Karen?
Pardon me?
Did you Photoshop that?
Every photograph's a lie. I Photoshop all the time. I'm a Virgo. We see them, you know, the minutia, and I got to clean all that up.
Improving reality.
Hey, reality is what we're doing right now. I've had enough reality. I like my fantasy now and again.
But you know, for somebody like me, I appreciate the finished work, but to sort of go behind the scenes and have you and Michael explain how you created it or why it was created that way, it is very enriching. It lets me look at it from even a different light. So it's really good.
It made me see the whole thing in a different light, and Michael and I would like to continue on some doing this project.
Sure, that'd be fun.
What is it? Happy birthday at the same time ask. I'm busy, I'm working, okay? She got the second basket and they called her. I don't know what they told her, okay?
It's somebody's birthday, I think.
Mazel tov.
Yeah, back to that question about the characteristic features of Babylonian revival architecture, the Babylonian revival.
Yes, yes. I'm sorry. What was the
exactly the features, characteristics that define revival?
Yeah, if you when I did this talk about a year ago, and I did some research, and there were these in the one of the cities of Babylon. I think it was Nergil. There were these gates to the city, and the massing of the gates, that is the 2 towers on the side and then the bigger flat area in the middle, was almost identical to the front of Road of Shalom. And those sort of crenellations across the roof line are very much the same kind of detailing. And you can really see where the architect was going with that. In those days, a lot of the synagogue architecture was Moorish, because for some reason that was associated with the Middle East. But Road of Shalom was very different. The Furness building that was there before was very Moorish. But Rabbi Wolsey, who was the rabbi who came to Philadelphia and said, I want a new building, wanted a modern building. And at the time in 1928, this was considered pretty modern.
Yes.
Yeah, because it was a lot of Art Deco. It wasn't as modern as some of the architects were building in Europe, but here in this country, Art Deco was kind of the hot style, and they always borrowed styles from things that they thought were appropriate. And so these guys, I guess, thought that the Babylonian revival was good for a synagogue, and I guess it was.
In the fine city of Philadelphia.
Yeah, well, the other thing that was really interesting about it is that a few years before Road of Shalom got built, the University of Pennsylvania had an archaeological dig in that part of the world, and uncovered the city of Ur, and that was the city where Abraham was from.
Oh.
And that was kind of in the news at the time, and that was a Babylonian
Interesting.
discovery. And just as the tomb of King Tut was discovered a few years later, and that launched the Egyptian revival style. So I think that this was pretty closely related to the discovery of the Babylonian landmarks.
Well,
Are there
what
any
about,
are there any photographs of the original, the Furness building?
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, they're in the lobby of the building now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you Google Frank Furness, and you'll find there's almost always a picture of Road of Shalom.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Right.
Michael, do you know what is Babylonia now? Is it like Iran, or where is Babylonia?
Yeah, it was part of Mesopotamia, which is modern day either Iran or Iraq.
Right.
I think Iraq. Yeah. So
Iraq.
there was Babylonia in the south and Assyria to the north, and they coexisted for a while before the Assyrians were defeated by the Babylonians.